Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. Hope all of you are doing well. I know these are difficult times to cope up, but all the very best and hats off to you all for working so hard. And for today, we are going to study management of genital herpes in pregnancy. So I've tried to summarize this topic for you all so that it won't take much of your time to go through it, but it's the time to go for revision. So, not to waste your time anymore, we will begin with neonatal herpes. So, why is herpes infection in pregnant women important? The first question is this. So, it's basically because it can be transferred from the mother to the baby, and it can affect babies in a very severe way, and it can cause high mortality as well as neurological disability. So, that's why this infection is quite important. But the fact of the matter is, it is quite rare, but still it's important. So to begin with, neonatal herpes, it is quite rare in UK, and it can present in three ways. So one of which is, the first one is where the disease is localized to skin, eye, and or mouth, and around 30% of the all of the cases present in the form of a localized disease. And since it is localized to skin, eye, or mouth, it carries the best prognosis. The second form in which it can present in neonates, it's localized CNS disease, either in the form of encephalitis or meningitis. And the third variety is where it presents in the form of disseminated infection with multiple organ involvement. So as you can see in the slide, that the local CNS disease and the disseminated infection comprise 70% of the cases. So it's quite high. And infants with local CNS disease often present late, which is generally between 10 days and 4 weeks of age. And since it is localized only to CNS, with proper antiviral treatment, mortality is quite low, that is surmountable to about 6%. But since it involves CNS, the neurological morbidity is quite high, which is about 70%. It may be there for lifelong. The third variety, which we were talking about, is disseminated disease, which carries a worse prognosis. And even with the appropriate medical treatment, mortality is quite high and is around 30%. And 17% have long term neurological sequelae. Okay, so regarding the incidence, as I've already told you, that it is quite rare in the UK, and but the USA study shows that there are around 2% of cases which come up in US in pregnant females. So coming on to the next slide, which is the etiology and transmission. So I have highlighted few of the points which are quite high yielding with respect to the exam. So you must remember these highlighted points, because these will be the ones which might come in the exam as well. So the first important point is, it can be caused either by HSV1 or HSV2. So approximately 50% of neonatal herpes is due to HSV1 and 50% due to HSV2, as either of the viral type can cause genital herpes in the mother. Another important fact is that 75% cases are transmitted to the neonates directly via the mother, and 25% cases are reported as postnatal infections, who are usually the very close relative of mothers who come in direct contact with the babies, and babies can develop infections few days after birth due to exposure of such patients. So, what are the risk factors which carries the greatest risk from mother to child transmission during a pregnancy? So the risk are greatest when a woman acquires a new infection, which is called as primary infection in the third trimester, particularly within the 6 weeks of delivery, as viral shedding may persist and the baby is likely to be born before the development of protective maternal antibodies. So this is the most important factor, and the whole guideline revolves around this line basically. The management, the rate of transmission to the neonates, everything depends upon when the patient is developing the primary infection, whether it's in the third trimester or within 6 weeks of delivery, or whether it's a recurrent infection. So this is one of the most important factor. Secondly, what we would like to talk about is disseminated herpes in the neonates. So these are more common in preterm infants, and these occur most exclusively as a result of primary infection in the mother. Third important point is recurrent herpes at the time of delivery, which is commonly asymptomatic or unrecognized. It may cause a localized forms of neonatal herpes, both local sinus disease and skin, eye, and mouth infection. So this was about the baby. How the disseminated herpes infection present in the mother. It may present with encephalitis, hepatitis, disseminated skin lesions, or a combination of these conditions. It is very, very rare in adults, and it is more commonly reported in pregnancy, particularly in immunocompromised individuals, sometimes in HIV positive cases as well. And if HIV and HSV coexist, the maternal mortality associated with this condition is high because it has a very high chance of developing into disseminated infection. So, various studies have shown that co-infection with herpes simplex virus and the HIV, they result in increased replication of both the viruses. This is another important point. So, now coming over to management part. So, management of pregnant women. So basically, it can be divided into when it is presenting and how it is presenting. So the management basically depends upon whether it's a primary episode or the recurrent episode. Second important factor is at what gestational age it is presenting. So whether it is in the first or second trimester of pregnancy, or whether it is presenting in the third trimester or within 6 weeks of anticipated delivery time. So these two are the most important determining factors for deciding the management of pregnant women with herpes. So first of all, we are going to discuss the scenario where the pregnant women are presenting with the first episode of genital herpes, which is also called as primary episode or primary genital herpes. So if they are in first or second trimester until 27 plus 6 weeks of gestation, so the management will be basically conservative. So it has been shown that to begin with, first important point is that herpes simplex virus carries no increased risk of a spontaneous miscarriage during the first trimester or congenital anomalies. And if there is suspicion whether the patient is carrying herpes or not, so those suspected cases, they should be referred to GUM clinic, which is genitourinary medicine physician clinic. And diagnosis is by taking a swab, and then it is sent for PCR for confirmation. And at the same time, that opportunity should be utilized for screening of other STIs as well. Treatment should not be delayed, and it consists of oral acyclovir in standard doses of 400 milligram thrice a day for 5 days. And if it is disseminated, then the dose will be IV. The use of acyclovir is associated with reduction in the duration and severity of symptoms and decrease in the duration of viral shedding. And for other symptomatic relief, we can give paracetamol and topical lidocaine 2% gel for pain relief. So after if the patient was under midwifery-led unit, then the patient should be referred to be reviewed by an obstetrician at least once, and that should be done preferably after review by the GUM physician. So providing that the delivery does not ensue within the next 6 weeks, the pregnancy should be managed expectantly and vaginal delivery anticipated. So usually it is recommended that from 36 weeks onwards, daily suppressive acyclovir 400 milligram thrice a day should be started, which not only reduces HSV lesions at term, it also reduces asymptomatic viral shedding. So this point is, I'm going to repeat that point. It not only reduces the chances of HSV lesions at term, it has also been shown to reduce symptomatic viral shedding and thus reducing the need for delivery by cesarean section. So it is usually recommended to give daily suppressive acyclovir dose from 36 weeks of gestation. And acyclovir in the various studies, although it is not recommended to give in pregnancy, but it has not been shown to show any kind of adverse effects if taken during pregnancy. And valacyclovir not recommended in view of lack of experience of its use. So not data is quite insufficient to recommend its use. So I hope you have understood this gist of this thing. Like first or second trimester acquisition, primary herpes, main approach is conservative until and unless delivery is anticipated in another 6 weeks. So in that case, you have to treat the primary episode with acyclovir oral 400 milligram thrice a day, usually for 5 days. Along with that, give symptomatic management, get a review by an obstetrician, and pregnancy should be managed expectantly and vaginal delivery is anticipated. Along with that, from 36 onwards, give daily suppressive dose of acyclovir 400 milligram thrice a day. So this was the first category. Now the second category is when the primary herpes patient is coming in the third trimester, that is from 28 weeks of gestation. So first important point I would like to highlight here is that there is insufficient evidence to suggest an association between herpes simplex virus and stillbirth as a cause of fetal death. So no additional monitoring of such pregnancies is recommended. So if the question asks you like continuous electronic fetal monitoring is required, no such thing is recommended according to BASH guideline. Second important point is as soon as the patient is there and you know that the patient is having primary herpes, treatment should not be delayed. Again, the same thing, give oral acyclovir 400 milligram thrice a day, usually for 5 days. But since the patient is already in the third trimester, it is recommended to give the daily suppressive dose of acyclovir, which is 400 milligram thrice a day until delivery. And basically, management depends on her clinical condition. If she is doing well, then oral acyclovir is enough. But if it is disseminated HSV, then obviously IV doses needs to be given. So for IV dose, it's 5 milligram per kg acyclovir. So another important point is primary genital herpes, third trimester, cesarean section. So this is the formula that you need to remember, that primary episode, third trimester, cesarean section is the recommended mode of delivery for all women developing first episode of genital herpes in the third trimester, particularly those developing symptoms within 6 weeks of expected delivery, as the risk of neonatal transmission of HSV is very high and it is about 41%. Please memorize this line, as it might come in different forms in the exam and in the form of EMQs or SBA. Like in SBA, it can ask you like what is the risk of neonatal transmission of HSV, and there will be many options like 20%, 40%, 10% in primary genital herpes in third trimester. So cesarean section reduces the risk of neonatal transmission. So basically, if this is a scenario, you have to select cesarean section. Second important point is that in up to 15% of cases there is an overlap. Like in 15% of cases where a woman presents with first episode of clinical HSV infection, it will actually be a recurrent infection. And to be honest, it is clinically difficult to differentiate. So in that scenario, what we can do is we can send a type specific HSV antibody testing. Type specific antibody testing means whether it's to diagnose whether it is antibodies are due to HSV1 or HSV2 if the time allows, because this test requires around 2 to 3 weeks to get the results. So if you have that much time in hand, then obviously you can go for this testing. Why I'm going to tell you, because suppose if there is genital lesion and you found by the testing that this is due to HSV1, and you have done the type specific HSV antibody testing and you found that pregnant women is already having antibodies to HSV1, that is in itself suggestive of that the mother has recurrent infection, because mother already has pre-existing antibodies to HSV1. So thus you can avoid an unnecessary cesarean section in that case, in that scenario. So this is the logic behind this. But since this the test results take around 2 to 3 weeks, and at the same time result interpretation is complicated. And one more thing to remember in NHS is that for everything there's a particular body which is assigned to do that particular job. So in these kind of scenario where the test result interpretation is difficult, so it has to be done by either a gum physician or a virologist. So it's better to take an opinion from them and then come to a conclusion about the result, and then accordingly follow the management plan. So the general recommendation is that if you don't have those kind of tests available or the results available in our hand, so it is therefore recommended that an initial plan of delivery should be based on the assumption that all first episode lesions are primary genital herpes. To summarize again, I won't take much of your time. So, primary genital herpes from 28 weeks, if we follow the general recommendation, consider it as primary herpes only, the recommended mode of delivery is cesarean section, and give the primary management for 5 days plus continue the management as suppressive dose until delivery. Third important point is, if in this kind of scenario vaginal delivery is allowed, risk of neonatal transmission of it is very high, and it is about 41%. Okay, so I think I made myself clear. So we move to the next slide. So we have already dealt with two scenarios where the women had primary genital herpes and she presented either in first or second trimester, and what to do if she presents in the third trimester. Now we are going to discuss about the case with the recurrent genital herpes. So in that case, the risk of neonatal herpes is low even if the lesions are present at the time of delivery, and it is about 0 to 3% for vaginal delivery. So you must remember, recurrent genital herpes, you have to allow vaginal delivery. So even if she has active lesions at the time of delivery, this is very important. And second important point is majority of recurrent episodes of genital herpes are short lasting and resolve within 7 to 10 days without antiviral treatment. So basically, we have to give here supportive treatment using saline bathing and analgesia, with the standard doses of paracetamol alone will usually suffice. Vaginal delivery is the anticipated mode of delivery in absence of other obstetric indications for C-section. Along with that, daily suppressive dose of acyclovir 400 milligram thrice a day should be considered from 36 weeks of gestation. Third important point is there's no increased risk of preterm labor or preterm pre-labor rupture of membranes or fetal growth restriction associated with women seropositive for HSV. Okay. So now there's one more category. What to do if a pregnant female presents with primary or recurrent genital lesion but at the onset of labor. So first thing, there's general management, and then based on whether it's primary or recurrent. So the general management will depend upon based on clinical assessment, where one has to take a history in which we have to see whether the patient is having primary or secondary. Irrespective whether it's primary or secondary, swab must be taken because this will affect the neonatal management. Second thing is you have to inform the neonatologist that such and such patient has come with active lesion, either primary or recurrent, and the neonatologist should be informed. Then, if it's a primary episode, then cesarean section is the mode of delivery. And it has been shown that even if the rupture of membranes already taken place and it is more than 4 hours, still cesarean section has some benefit over vaginal delivery. Second thing is what will you give as medicines? So if the patient opts for vaginal delivery, then we have to give IV acyclovir, which is given intrapartum to the mother, 5 milligram per kilogram every 8 hours, and subsequently to the neonate, IV acyclovir 20 milligram per kilogram every 8 hours. So, although vaginal delivery should be avoided in case of primary herpes, if possible, in women who deliver vaginally in the presence of primary genital herpes lesions, invasive procedures such as application of fetal scalp electrodes or fetal blood sampling, artificial rupture of membranes, and instrumental delivery should be avoided. Okay, so you see primary genital herpes, whether it presented in the third trimester pregnancy or at the onset of labor, cesarean section is the preferred mode of delivery. And if the patient opts for vaginal delivery, obviously you have to give intrapartum prophylaxis, that is acyclovir, along with neonatal prophylaxis with IV acyclovir. Second important thing is invasive procedure should be avoided in case of primary genital herpes, since the risk of neonatal transmission is quite high. But if it is a case of recurrent genital herpes, the risk to the baby of neonatal herpes is quite low, 0 to 3% for vaginal delivery, as we have already discussed. So, in that case, vaginal delivery should be avoided and should be offered to women with recurrent genital herpes lesions at the onset of labor. But the final choice of vaginal delivery versus cesarean section, it should be made by the mother. You should not be the one who is making decision on her grounds, because you can offer her the comparison and the advantages and disadvantages on the future risk involved with cesarean section, the likelihood of future cesarean sections if she goes for cesarean section right now. So these are the things that you need to explain before offering her choices between vaginal delivery or cesarean section. And she should be the one who should make a decision. But the recommended mode is vaginal delivery, as we discussed during the third trimester. The same follows, the same is applicable if the patient presents at the onset of labor as well. There's no difference. The only difference is that if there's primary genital herpes, the invasive procedures, such as we discussed, like fetal scalp pH monitoring or artificial rupture of membranes, these kind of procedure must be avoided in case of primary genital herpes. But in case of recurrent genital herpes, since the risk is quite low, so invasive procedures may be used if required, because the risk associated with is unlikely to be clinically significant. The next important thing is, since in recurrent genital herpes, vaginal delivery is the one which is a recommended mode of delivery, but still, as the duration of rupture of membrane increases, especially beyond 4 hours, there is a possibility that the risk to neonatal transmission might increase. So that's why many clinicians expedite the delivery considering the limited duration of rupture of membranes. Okay, so now what to do if the patient presents with herpes in preterm pre-labor rupture of membrane, that is before 37 completed weeks of gestation. So similar way, whether it's the primary episode or the recurrent episode. So basically, there is limited evidence to inform best obstetric practice when PPROM is complicated by primary HSV infection. So management is usually guided by a multidisciplinary team discussion involving the obstetricians, neonatologists, and genitourinary medicine physicians. And it will depend on the gestation that PPRM has occurred. So if by the team decision is made for immediate delivery, then obviously since it's a primary genital herpes, immediate delivery, we should go for cesarean section, the same formula. But if the team has decided for conservative management, then IV acyclovir 5 milligram per kg every 8 hours. Simultaneously, prophylactic corticosteroid should be considered to reduce the implications of preterm delivery upon the infant. So this is when the plan is for initial conservative management to buy some time, to give steroids, and then plan for delivery. Then third point is if delivery is indicated within 6 weeks of primary infection, then obviously cesarean section is the recommended mode because it may still offer some benefit despite the prolonged duration of rupture of membranes. So understood? So basically, if there is immediate cesarean section, if still the delivery is anticipated within 6 weeks of primary infection, still cesarean section has been found to offer some benefit. All right. So this is the protocol. Then the second situation is where the patient is having recurrent genital herpes, and and she has pre-labor preterm rupture of membrane. So it will depend if it has occurred before 34 weeks, the expectant management is the or conservative management is the main guideline, and we have to follow the guidelines according to PPRM guideline and give steroids, oral acyclovir 400 milligram thrice a day for the mother. So this is how it will be followed. And the next important category is the HIV and HSV co-infection. So as I've already described in the initial few slides that if the patient is HIV positive and if she is presenting with primary HSV infection, then we have to follow the patient according to HSV management guideline. All right. So depends whether on which gestational age patient is presenting. If she's presenting in third trimester, then treat the primary episode, give the suppressive doses from 36 weeks onwards, and then cesarean section is the recommended mode. And if she presents in the first or the second trimester, then follow the expectant protocol. Treat the primary episode, give the suppressive doses from 36 weeks, and the delivery will be decided based on the HIV viral load and the CD4 count, all those things. All right. And the second situation is where the patient is having recurrent HSV infection and she is also HIV positive. So we must remember this point. I've already highlighted this point previously as well, that both virus increases each other transmission and secretion. So it has been found that women in labor who have active genital lesions, there is a high chance that HIV transmission to the baby might decrease because might increase, because those lesions have high quantity of HIV virus as well, because they increase each other's secretion. So women who are HIV antibody positive and have history of genital herpes should be offered daily suppressive acyclovir 400 milligram thrice a day from 32 weeks of gestation to reduce the risk of transmission of HIV infection, especially in women where a vaginal delivery is planned. So this 32 weeks cutoff is taken in HIV positive because considering high risk of preterm delivery in HIV positive women. And in recurrent infection, the mode of delivery should be in line with Viva Guide HIV in pregnancy guideline. Recommendations according to obstetric factors and HIV parameters such as HIV viral load and CD4 count. Now coming to the management of the neonate part. So this is also categorized based on the same criteria. If baby is born by cesarean section in mothers who had primary HSV infection third trimester, so this line itself clearly shows that the risk of vertical transmission has been clearly reduced by doing a cesarean section. So no need to send routine swabs and all. Routine postnatal care for 24 hours. And parents should be educated to look for the warning signs in the baby after discharge, such as if there is any skin, eye, and mucous membrane lesions, lethargy, irritability, or poor feeding. These are signs, and if these kind of signs are present, they should call the doctor immediately. Second category is that management of babies born by spontaneous vaginal delivery with primary HSV infection within previous 6 weeks. So there is obviously a high risk of vertical transmission, around 41%. So if the baby is born well, then swabs must be taken and sent for herpes simplex PCR, swabs of the skin, conjunctiva, oropharynx, and rectum. Empirical treatment with IV acyclovir 20 mg per kg every 8 hours should be initiated until evidence of active infection is ruled out. Third point, breastfeeding is recommended unless the mother has herpetic lesions around the nipples. This is very, very important. Okay, so breastfeeding is recommended unless she has herpetic lesions around the nipples. And if the baby is already showing signs of unwellness, or the baby is presenting with the skin lesions, then obviously swabs must be taken and sent for herpes simplex PCR. Secondly, lumbar puncture should be done even if CNS features are not present. Thirdly, start the treatment. Do not wait for the results. IV acyclovir 20 mg per kg every 8 hours until evidence of active infection is ruled out. Fourth category is management of babies born to mothers with recurrent HSV infection in pregnancy with or without active lesions at delivery. Since the risk of infection is low, which is between 0 to 3%, so observation of the baby for 24 hours, routine postnatal care, no need to send swabs and all. Then conservative management of the neonate is advised, and parents should be educated to look for the warning signs like lethargy, poor feeding, or any kind of skin lesions. And they should be advised to call up the doctor as soon as possible if they find any of these signs. So these are the things, how to manage the neonatal herpes. Then there was one more category which we discussed earlier as well, that mother to baby, that is perinatal transmission accounts for 75% and postnatal infections account for 25% of the total. 25% of cases there is a possible source of infection from a very close relative of the mother. So that's why all the people who are nearby the baby, newborn baby, they should practice careful hand hygiene. And those with oral herpetic lesions should not kiss the neonate, because obviously the lesions might transmit the HSV to the baby. Now coming to the last slide, which basically summarizes uh, the algorithm. So if you start from the extreme right hand side, that is primary acquisition of genital herpes in the third trimester. Okay, let me try with the pen. Okay. I don't know why I don't think it's working properly. All right. So to begin with, primary acquisition of genital herpes in the third trimester, the extreme right-hand side box. So what will you do in that kind of a situation? So the formula is primary herpes, third trimester or at the time of delivery. Treat the primary episode, give the suppressive dose from 36 weeks onwards, and recommended mode is cesarean section. Then primary acquisition of genital herpes in the first or second trimester. Treat primary episode with standard doses of acyclovir. Just a second, give me some time, 2 minutes. Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry. I had to attend one important call. So to begin with, we were discussing how to manage primary herpes patient. That is primary herpes if she presents in third trimester. Treat the primary episode with standard doses of acyclovir, which is 400 milligram thrice a day for 5 days. And then from 36 onwards, give suppressive dose 400 milligram thrice a day until delivery, and then recommend planned cesarean section, especially within 6 weeks of delivery. Then, if we come to the middle top box in the center, that is primary acquisition of genital herpes in the first or second trimester. As we already discussed, treat the primary episode with the standard doses of acyclovir, which is 400 milligram thrice a day, usually for 5 days. And then consider acyclovir 400 milligram thrice a day from 36 weeks onwards. And if it's a recurrent genital herpes, treat the episode with the standard doses of acyclovir if necessary. Otherwise, usually, even if without treatment, they usually resolve within 7 to 10 days. Plus, give the symptomatic management. And even for recurrent genital herpes, consider acyclovir 400 milligram thrice a day from 36 onwards. All right. And here, the recommended mode of delivery in both the cases is vaginal delivery. So, in this scenario, when we are offering vaginal delivery, routine postnatal care and routine postnatal care should be done. And if there are active lesions at the time of delivery, still normal postnatal care, discharge home if baby well at 24 hours, and advise patients or parents regarding later management if there is any sign of baby being unwell. In the case of primary genital herpes, where it is presenting in the third trimester, and we are recommending cesarean section. So if cesarean section is done, baby is doing well, you can discharge the baby 24 hours with advising parents on reporting if there is any concerns with the baby being well. And if vaginal delivery is conducted in such a scenario, since there is a very high risk of baby being affected with HSV, neonatologist should be informed. And if baby is unwell, then do the swabs, perform lumbar puncture, give empirical treatment. And if baby is doing well, still swabs must be taken. Empirical treatment must be started until the reports show that there is no active infection, which is 20 milligram per kg thrice a day for 10 days, usually while awaiting results. All right. So this is the basic algorithm, and if you want to summarize the entire guideline in just one page, this is the basic algorithm, and if you understand and remember this, you'll be able to answer the questions. So this is how they usually ask the question: give the clinical scenario like a pregnant female at 28 weeks of gestation, presenting either with primary herpes. What is the recommended mode of delivery? Or if the patient, she has had genital herpes in the previous pregnancy and now again she is presenting at the onset of labor, what would be the management plan for her? So these are kind of the different scenarios in which they can give you just to confuse you. But remember one thing: primary herpes, whether it's the third trimester or at the onset of labor, cesarean section, recurrent herpes, if in the third trimester or at the onset of labor, recommended mode is vaginal delivery. But that decision should be taken by the mother herself, and you should give her the option. If she presents at the onset of labor, you should, with active genital lesion, you should provide both the options, cesarean as well as vaginal delivery. But considering the risk is very low of the baby being affected with HSV and future risk involved with the cesarean section, um, you should be giving her all the information, and she should be the one who should make the decision what does she want. So this is the summary of this guideline, and that's all. Okay, thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye. Allah Hafiz.